Greetings, greetings. Let's see. So, greetings on Clubhouse, greetings on YouTube, and perhaps Facebook as well. Yes, definitely YouTube, Facebook. A welcome into the space. I am Ema Yakira Eden, of course. And this is Honor Life Global Ministries Midday Affirmative. So welcome, 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 welcome. Let's see. So of course, as you know, I'm looking down at my phone for Clubhouse. And please let me know in both spaces, both on Clubhouse and also, of course, here on Facebook and YouTube. Just confirm that you can hear me and see me where I'm supposed to be seen. Welcome, Safta Ahava. Welcome, Aki Isaiah and Akoti Maria. I see you in Clubhouse. And I'm just going to look at the chat. Oh, and peace, Akoti Yafe as well. Okay, perfect. You can hear me in Clubhouse. Okay, and I'm going to assume peace, Imanaya. Okay, thank you. So I actually need to do a split screen because I have lots of notes that I wanted to go through. So give me 1 second. There we go. Okay. So of course, as we come together, we always want to open the space by offering reverence and gratitude, humble gratitude to the Most High, our masterful creator, right? The architect of all. Because none of this is even remotely possible without first us being formed and fashioned. And so we give thanks and honor. Of course, also thank you for creating and space and opportunity, and also for consistently edifying us, the community of our New Life Global Ministries. And so I say give thanks to Chief Yuya, the Chief Jegna, and head of our New Life Global Ministries. So welcome. I'm going to jump right in. So duality of wisdom, actually. I'm looking down. Clubhouse is down here. I just want to make sure I get out of the chat and back into the conversation. So of course, if anyone wants to open their mic, just please jump onto the stage in Clubhouse. I know there's a way to share the link if you want to come on live as well. If someone walks me through how to do that, I'll try to do that as well. I always welcome company up here. For those of you who don't, who listen and maybe even listen from the shadows, right? You don't come in and greet the space, or maybe you're just here to receive something. Know that it is always a beautiful thing when we come together and build and share. Maybe some of us make this look a little easy. I don't think I do, but it's pretty challenging. So it's always nice when you have company. Yes, I'll just say company. Wait, and it looks like I got something. Here we go. All right. So it's always nice when you have company. That said, I'm going to jump right in. So the name of this Strong's discussion is Duality of Wisdom. And I want to tell y'all something. So I had been digging into this digging. Yeah, it was a dig. I've been led for, I would say, maybe the past couple of months back and forth to this idea of wisdom. And at first, I think I wondered, well, biblically, why is wisdom called she or her? And I just kept getting stuck on, why is wisdom feminine, right? Or and it took me down many, as we identify within our new, when we start studying, it's like you go down these rabbit holes. And so I went down many rabbit holes. I won't even say they were all rabbit holes. I took a lot of different journeys and paths, I guess I'll say. And it was like manna from 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 the Most High when Chief Yuya gave us the podcast Seeking Wisdom. I was like, yes. I'm going to get some answers, because clearly, as you study, what do you know? You just discover that there's so much more that you do not know. And I will admit, I have definitely said something that Chief Yuya speaks on in that podcast, and I'm going to put this confession up front because I know I'm not the only one. But even if I am the only one, I want to own the truth, not my truth, but I want to own the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is, I have been that. Oh, thank you for putting the link in the chat as well. For anyone who wants to join on Clubhouse and YouTube, the link is down in the chat. Give thanks. I have said, I just want to get it. I said that. I just want to get it. I just want to know how to do a thing right and just do it. And as she pointed out in that podcast, that is not the path to wisdom. See, I'm getting nervous telling the truth. I'm kicking the table and everything. I just wanted to get it. And what I didn't get is that there is no it to get. This is the it, the journey, the putting one foot in front of the other. That's how we somehow maybe one day get to wisdom. So I wanted to put my confession out there, like up front in the beginning, so that y'all are aware of my truth. This is my truth. Okay. I was seeking wisdom, just trying to get it. And that ain't the way it goes. So welcome to the stage, Akotiafe. Of course, if you want to jump in, I'm going to try to look down. I'm going to try to pay. Let me move my phone up so I could actually see if somebody else jumps on. So in the meantime and in between time, let me get into what we're going to get into today. Okay. And also welcome Chief Yuya. Peace, peace. Give thanks for joining us. And of course, anybody unmute at any time, all are welcome. So I'm going to pull a lot from not a lot, but I'm going to reference the Seeking Wisdom podcast quite a bit. I also want to give some of the tools that I'll be using. Well, really, there were just a few. So one is the Apocrypha. So yes, of course, we pull a lot from, the Bible, right? From biblical texts and King James Version in particular. But I also wanted to share that in my quest to get wisdom, it don't exist, y'all, but in my quest to get it, I wanted to share, this is just one, right? I have my little page holder, but this is the Apocrypha, the one that I've been using or pulling from. It's called the Complete Apocrypha. And these are just some of the books that were interestingly left out of the Bible. Peace, Ema, Naya already said that. Peace, Baba Randy. Peace, Ema Sequoia, top tier speaker. Peace, Brother Ramik. And it looks like that's all there is for now. Imanaya says, I've tried and wanted to just get it as well, but you don't get it until you do it. And even when you do it, you don't necessarily, it's not, even when you do it, right? In this case, we'll just stick with the quest for wisdom. I mean, heck, as she pointed out in the podcast, Solomon was given it. Yes, he was given it. He was given wisdom. He was given the ability to listen and do. But ultimately, even he faltered because in so doing, he became arrogant and broke his commitment to that which created him, right? So therefore, he didn't ultimately get it because it is the doing. If we're doing it, if we're moving in it, then that's it. The moment we stop or we slow down, then the momentum of that thing also is halted. So peace, Jeremiah mind. I just want to make sure. I'm going to try to like keep up with the chat. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. Except for the Clubhouse chat. That one is pretty hard to keep up with because you have to like change screens over in Clubhouse, and I'm not doing that. So, right. So with what you spoke about was, Solomon and that quest for wisdom. He did a few things. And the first, so I name this duality of wisdom. And actually this particular share, it was like on the schedule for several strongs. But as Akotiafe acknowledged last strong, Anu took a little hiatus from presenting information. And so presenting here anyway. And so I'm sharing this message today. All right. So wisdom and the duality of wisdom. So we know that, as above, so below, there's yin and there's yang. And so there's like this idea, there's man and there's woman, light and dark. Please share. Maybe I should do it this way instead of me just, freestyling all the duality, even good and evil, right? Which we've touched on so many times here, or that light and dark side of anything. What would you identify duality as? How would you acknowledge duality in your life? What does it look like? Please put it in the chat. But definitely, if you want to use the link and hop on in or open your mic on Clubhouse and just share a bit of what duality looks like. And we're going to own it today. I know we tend to, speak from this abstract philosophical perspective, but I opened with owning my truth, which was that I had literally said that to Chief. I just want to get it. And when we listen to the podcast and we listen to all of the venues that Chief feeds us from, he often says, some people listen and then they take offense. And it's like, you was talking about me? I knew I wasn't the only one, but I definitely knew I was one of the people who had said that, because I had said it like recently. I just want to get it right. So I wanted to hear from you all, and I'm actually going to wait because I think sometimes y'all wait us out, but like the silent button, you wait us out, and then you think you go under the radar. So we're not going to do that. Oh, peace. Welcome, Chief.
Peace. Peace. Thank you. Peace to everyone who's listening and who's on the platform and clicking links and sharing so much and so forth. So to answer the question, for me, duality looks like so many different things, but I would say that it's resistant to the idea of reductionism and that everything just breaks down and comes down to one thing. So duality always existing. Fundamentally, for me, it immediately looks like there is the thing and then there's no thing. So there's the physical and then there's the non-physical. And in anything that I'm going to experience, there's always going to be the physical and non-physical. So for me, even as a person, or as a being rather, as a being, I am a corpse and I'm a person at the same time. So there's a duality there that exists between my personality and my actual physical body. And of course, there's the concept of the non-physical soul as well as the physical body. So I would just say, for me, within duality, there's always a concept that nothing is going to be one. And if anything that I believe to be one thing is an illusion, even evil. If I believe that there is only evil with no good, then evil is not really, then evil is just really a hallucination. It's kind of like how people sometimes look at themselves, like people who refuse to take accountability, they never see their part that they play in anything. They never see the dualistic investment, and they're convinced that they are the only thing that exists, and everything outside of that, or that, encounters them, is not a dual part or a connected part of them. Like I can't be the genius and the fool at the same time. I'm only the genius. So if certain things happen to me, then it has to be the handiwork of some wicked fool or some wicked demon that's no way attached to me, because, there's only one side. And of course, that's a hallucination. So, yeah, for me, duality goes beyond mathematical proofs and things. It just says that there's always going to be different kinds of substances like mind and body, and that the reality that we're going to experience from a mature perspective is always going to exist in two realms rather, and one realm is going to be governed by the laws of physics, and then there's going to be another realm that's going to be governed by the law of ethics and logic and psychology. That's my ad.
Give thanks. Give thanks. So when you touched on nothing, right? Nothing is going to be any one thing. The first thing that popped in my mind, of course, was like, well, yeah, either I'm right or I'm wrong. And what I've been taught here in Anu is that, yeah, you can be as much right as you are wrong, and in most instances, you're going to be a mix of both. And so that taking that perspective alone, it speaks to objectivity, and ownership, right? Because in that example where it's like I refuse to think that I could be the genius and the fool. It has to be your fault. Like if I look like a fool, it's your fault because you made me look like a fool. Otherwise, I would have just, my genius would have been, or my energy would have just been shining bright. Um, and so that actually is arrogance or the lack of humility, which is a piece of that wisdom duality, right? So it's humility and listening or obedience. If you listen to Chief's Seeking Wisdom podcast, you actually would have he laid out those steps, right? Um, that the first thing Solomon did when he was dreaming and being offered um, a gift, um, the first thing he did was offer humility. And so when we seek guidance, instruction, or we're even gifted with guidance or instruction, do we meet it with, and not necessarily, if you're doing some sort of consultation, or if you're, speaking with someone that you may perceive as an elder or your superior, but maybe in just interacting with a fellow sister or brother, if you're seeking to receive something from them, do you accept it humbly? Or is it like, all right, yeah, I hear what you're saying, so I'm going to do it this way? You don't understand. You're saying you're seeking wisdom, but you still want to just know, well, I got it. I'm gonna figure it out for myself. Um, so that there's no humility there. There's actually more ego and arrogance. So yeah, give thanks. Let's see. So peace, Akoti, Yamina, peace, brother Darian, and peace, Master Manalek. I see you in Clubhouse. Yes, and I know. Oh,
So
oh, peace. Come
I
on
can
in.
add on to that while people are still, in the beginning when you're doing these midday affirmatives, it usually takes about 25 minutes to heat up. Once everybody rolls in.
That's true.
Yeah, it takes a minute. That first 20-25 minutes is rough. you know. But I would say also, based on what you just said, to build on that, like the science of listening in that sense, and listening, of course, requires a vibratory action that carries it, is sacred to the concept of dualism, because again, it's a relationship between the mind and body, and dualism is such a tricky concept because it is understandable that the physical world would have an impression upon the mental world. That's understandable, but it's very difficult to understand how the mental or the non-physical has an impression on the physical. So in your sciences of dualism, we really don't know how it works. We know that they interact, but we don't know how energetically they interact with each other. But the the arrogance and the ego that you speak of becomes so dangerous because, and again, the mind body connection, we understand that the mind is something that targets, and it sends projectiles of thoughts onto this life field that we experience, and it is those projections that become our constant thoughts. And because they first, if you look at your life as like a movie, and I'm saying like you got a big projector screen, everything starts on the screen before it manifests. So the screen is almost like a gateway filter. You have the thoughts that happen in your mind, and then they go onto that screen, and then you watch it for like you watching your thoughts. And then if those thoughts are reoccurring enough or recurring enough, then they become a subtle, vital, energetic vibration. And those energetic vibrations can carry ashe or carry chi or carry that life force. And those things then project into the world energetically, like they're projectiles. So the more you have a certain thought that's within your mind, that's within the mind, the greater that vibratory momentum becomes when it manifests itself off that screen, and it manifests itself as atoms and molecules. That's how we see it manifesting itself into the material existence. And when you have a powerful mind, which means that's a powerful mind is an open mind, you can make those thoughts manifest really quickly. While there are people who have a more stubborn sort of way, a more arrogant, egotistical sort of way, who, like you said, will just do yeah, I got this, yeah, oh, yeah, thanks, I'll figure it out. And that's really a sign of a less developed mentality. And you have to, or you or they, somebody has to repeat knowledge constantly before they can manifest. So those are the people who will say, I pray, and nothing happens. Or who constantly have to listen to affirmations every day, or you find yourself always having to drill certain things into them because it takes longer, because the life force is so low, because of the ego and the arrogance. It takes longer for things that are on that screen, if you will, that life screen, to project and manifest themselves outside of it. So when the mind is more powerful and it's more open, it increases a person's faculties or their acumen to concentrate. And, I spoke about that recently, the focus of the mind. It allows you now to create intentions. And when you can create or these intentions and put attention onto certain things, now your soul can carry its qualities onto those patterns that you're sending in life. So you see the duality there of, again, the mind, the body, the soul is in there. And for some people, it just appears as good habits. They just have good habits. And they may come aware of those tendencies, and those good habits become a lifestyle. And the seed of those thoughts, they carry their own impression from one lifetime to the next. When you have a powerful, open mind, they become deep seated. And sometimes they're deep seated because there's been major events or certain things that's happened. But when you have an undeveloped or arrogant sort of mind, there are seeds that lay dormant for years upon years upon years. And we find ourselves always having to review the same lesson, the same lesson, the same lesson, the same lesson, because it takes so many years for those seeds to ripen. And, eventually there's an impression that will manifest itself. We call that karma. It will manifest itself into a desire, or it will kind of absorb itself into one's spiritual practices. But our experience here, it becomes animated by that screen and through the actions and events that we live. And there has to be an interconnectedness of our logical thought, our human spirit, and the vibrational field around us that's the mind, that's the cosmic mind. And then correlate that with the earth, which is the body. And it's when you have that correlation between that cosmic mind, that human nature, the earth body, and your soul, then you're able to kind of experience the dualism and throughout different dimensions, and break that illusionary or hallucinogenic spell of Maya, which keeps you in like this perpetual cycles of revolutions that you be thinking is something, but it's just those energies revolving around each other, waiting for something to happen, but not necessarily giving rise to a better human being. So just wanted to add that on.
Give thanks and peace, Master Manelek. Thank you for coming up on the stage. Of course, I'm not always looking down, so just unmute and jump on in. Oh, go ahead.
Peace, everyone. I think the question was, how do you see the idea of dualism? Make sure I get that right.
Yes, duality, dualism. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Chief had said most of what I was about to say, but I thought of counterbalances when you brought up the idea of dualism. Like you have one thing and then you have immediately like something else in existence that balances that thing out. And when I thought of it, I thought of what Chief had brought up about not thinking of it as like having one sex and then having the opposite sex, but having complementary sexes or genders, which is a more healthy way to look at it. You don't have these two things opposing one another and then that opposition bringing balance, but they're here to balance each other out. So one thing has something that the other one doesn't, and they complement each other. So the duality of most things in existence, it's there because you need something to balance it out. And sometimes that duality isn't always pleasant. Sometimes it's a predator-prey thing. Sometimes you have something that's broke and then something that's not broke. You have something that is up or down, something that's light versus heavy, and these things aren't necessarily always opposed to each other, but they bring a greater balance. That if you have like a narrow view, or if you're like too zoomed in on a dynamic, sometimes you won't see like the larger picture. You know, you won't see how two things balancing each other out, whether that interaction may seem violent or not, or whether it may seem fair or unfair, or it seems like there's a winner and a loser. You may not be able to zoom out far enough to see like, oh, this dynamic helps life to be life. You know, that goes for many different aspects of life. Like Chief is even just speaking on like an atomic level or a molecular level. But yeah, I was just thinking of those types of relationships. Like you have balance and counterbalance. So you have one complement on one side and a complement on the other. You know, of course, you have the masculine and feminine dynamic as well. You know, so but that's what I wanted to add to the bill.
Give thanks. You know, when you, Master Menelik, spoke about being too zoomed in, again, I'm like, right, that is that lack of objectivity again, or even lack of perspective. You think this is it because this is, you know, or taking a myopic view. It's kind of like, this is all. This is all my, and this is the only thing that exists in my world. So if someone throws something else out there, or life throws you something else, instead of taking it as an opportunity, or just taking it and accepting it first, and then, you know, in that acceptance, realizing that this is an opportunity, whether that thing is even perceived as failure, or stumbling, or falling, or suffering some sort of something that you may perceive as an embarrassment. It's like when we we separate ourselves from that experience, we lose the opportunity to get the fullness of the lesson. Um, and so we don't get to have that balance. We almost, it sounds like, and I would agree if this is what you're saying, it's like that fosters that imbalance. And that imbalance connects with what Chief identified as the relationship, right? The science of listening being that sacred relationship between what's happening in the mind and what's manifesting in the body. And, you know, for those that focus only on the external aesthetic, it's like, well, I look good, everything look, I put on my makeup, my outfit looks right, you know, my bra is falsely, you know, making things look different than they naturally are, so everything must be fine. But then there's no focus on any of what's happening on the inside, or how what is inside is truly actually spilling out. So yeah, give thanks. I could see how what both of you shared connects and aligns with, you know, different facets of duality, and even wisdom, the duality of wisdom. Uh-oh, it looks like I might have missed. Oh, I did miss some things. All right. See, I look in the camera, and then everybody, welcome onto the stage, Mayuba, and I thought I saw another request. Oh yes. Okay. And as well, Abaras Kush. Again, of course, you know, just hop on in. Hop on in. Um, so so oh, jump on in. Jump, just do it. Do it. Come on. Please.
I got you. Let's see, you pulling for it. So I got you.
No, I was trying to like time it. I'm trying to look down and see who unmutes, if I should keep going or what. But we got this. We're gonna move with some rhythm.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Peace to everyone in the space. And there were a couple, there were a few things that were said that, reminded me of a few other points. Well, you probably didn't see on the YouTube YouTube side, I had posted a message. I heard you say my truth, but I know you meant the truth. So
I was actually, yeah, I did see that and I was going to get to it. I said that being very facetious. I said, this is my truth. I said that after acknowledging that, we honor the truth. So I was being silly.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay. Word. All right. So I just misunderstood. All right. Cool. Well, yeah, there was a few points that kind of stood out to me in regards to the duality of wisdom. Oftentimes, especially in this Babylonian system, we want to feel good all the time. We want to feel high. We don't want to experience any type of grounding. And typically that's from trauma and pain. That we want to only experience a high. And feel like life is supposed to be nothing but highs and wins. And so we have a lot of times. Excuse me. What's typical is we formulate a mindset where we don't get the lesson, where we're arrogant, and we don't get the lesson, of a loss, or of what can be perceived as a loss, but in actuality, those losses can actually be, the beginning of a win, if we are looking at it, from the correct perspective, then we can, we can utilize those lessons, to really build upon, excuse me, pardon me, to build upon, what has been presented to us by Yah, which is in abundance, which is life force, which is, will, character. We have many resources around us that we can pull from, in order for us to generate, this physical body into more than just, a dying vessel, And so, yeah, that was, one of the thoughts that I kind of, thought of when Master Mendelek, mentioned, I think it was Master Mendelek. But yeah, he had, oh, pardon me, a little bit of distraction nearby. But yeah, I'm trying to hold on to my thought, pardon me. But yeah, that was the majority of what I wanted to express. The rest of what I was going to say, if it comes back to me, then I'll hop back in. But those were some thoughts that I was reminded of. And, this the lesson of life. There's many lessons that we're taught, and that we miss, and that we're too arrogant to actually fashion into what is supposed to be more life generating. Oh, so yeah, I do remember. So yeah, in regards to that duality of wanting to be high all the time, we do many things that is disadvantageous to our mind and our body, are one and then the other, a cause and effect, type of deal, which, kind of circulates and causes us to run in circles, regenerating negative thoughts, and regenerating negative habits, which generates, us feeding ourselves, negative energy, no matter if that's through food or intoxicants, drugs, alcohol, whatever it may be, which, takes us into a lower place of, feeling, ultimately worse. You know what I mean? Those are all like, those temporary stimulants, no matter if it's sugar, or if it's, consequence and, the immediate gratification, versus, planning for the long term, so there's, there's so many lessons that, we sometimes skip over, and when that happens, we circle on downwards instead of spiraling upwards, So I just wanted to throw that in there. Give thanks for allowing me to share.
Give thanks, Abaras Kush. Come through, Master Mendelek.
Give thanks. I was just going to say, I think that was one of Chief Yuya's points that you were pulling on, Ras Kush. Oh, okay. Yeah, give thanks. But what you did say reminded me of, there was this movie that I saw. It was a documentary on Che Guevara, and there are certain points where the person who's playing Che Guevara was narrating, and he had made a point about unseen forces influencing some of the effects that we may see. Like sometimes there are unseen causes moving behind the scenes. And he used the example of the myth of the self-made person. Often the person we think got to their station on their own received help from unseen forces. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like an esoteric sort of thing, but there may be an agenda that's pushing what that person is already moving towards. And they may not realize that there's a shadow side of what they're doing, and they think that they're just making it on their own, or that their success is gained off of their own merit, and they don't really have the perceptiveness or the level of discernment to say, okay, I'm successful in this field because there's also an agenda that's encouraging people like me who are striving for what I'm striving for, or maybe not necessarily what I'm striving for exactly, but achieving things in the way that I'm achieving them, and thus using me as an example for others to sort of achieve things through similar routes, and it's like a duality of sorts. Because you think, like TPI was saying, you think this thing is happening on its own. You think that there's a one. But maybe I'm successful because it's good for the system for people like me to be successful. Or for example, a lot of, if you look at a lot of advertisements, you're going to see melanated women. And you may make the connection or the assumption that, it's just because melanated women are that great right now. You wouldn't see an agenda to push the melanated woman in front and make the melanin dominant man less visible. You may not see like a connection between the two. So some things are connected that you may not necessarily see the connections, but they are there, and that's what I was speaking about earlier, about being able to zoom out, so you may see like a predator-prey type of relationship, and it may be helpful for the ecosystem, it may be harmful, and there may be a balance between those dualities. You may see like foxes and rabbits. If there are too little foxes and too many rabbits are going to eat all the grass. But if there are more foxes than rabbits, then there's going to be a scarcity of one thing. So there's a balance towards the duality. Like once each thing is playing its proper part, but sometimes one side could consciously push the other side into a certain space where it's advantageous for them, and that can create an imbalance, even if it's just Um, like Ross Kush was saying, this is for my pleasure, and I want more pleasure out of this thing, and my gluttony is going to cause an imbalance. But yeah, that's what your thoughts were bringing to mind, Ross Kush.
Yeah, give thanks for that. Again with that zoomed out, right? So in the way you use zoomed out this time, I made a little note, that it would connect with, I wonder if it would connect with patience, right? So that zoom, you don't necessarily get the fullness of the perspective in the moment. So, whether it's the fox or the rabbit in your garden, it's kind of like, well, if at the moment I'm just, experiencing the rabbits in my garden and it's like, oh, this is pretty terrible. Um, it's only when you get the lesson of, all right, well, it doesn't have to be that. It can be this. And you experience that thing, that's when you go, oh, okay, okay, this could be a lot worse or better depending on the crop you're growing and where you are. um but it takes an openness, because the person who's not open or who doesn't have that powerful or open mind that says, you know what, I'm done with gardening. I'm not doing this anymore. Yeah, this was the vision given. Yeah, somehow I stumbled into these acres and I knew it was a blessing the way it all transpired, but now it's hard. And I could deal with the rabbits because they're cute and, yeah, they steal my carrots. I'll just, keep it what I know. Yeah, they steal my carrots and they, but at least they're not the fox. And so the fox and the carrots, no, I can't. I mean, the fox and the rabbits, I can't do this. So I'm just going to stop altogether. Never being open enough to experience the lesson in it, which I know is a running theme. Um, but thank you all for sharing on the idea of duality. That was just the beginning, right? So it's the duality of wisdom. um Wisdom. Oh, did somebody unmute? Go ahead, go ahead.
Something else.
Sure, go on.
Yeah, go ahead. Wanted to throw something else out there, and then I'll turn over the mic to looks like Mayuba. Is that how you say it? Please forgive me if I'm saying it wrong. Yeah. So another thing that kind of popped into my head was one of the stories in which the character got something good, which was honey, out of something bad, which was a dead carcass, and so like the duality of that is, kind of like how Chief was saying, is that we oftentimes we don't want to see, um, we don't want to look at something as potentially both, and look at objectively, of if we should make a decision to take this route. You know what I mean? We look at, okay, well, it looks good, it smells good, it tastes good, then it must be good, you know. But much like Chief was saying, earlier, the non-physical, also has a presence, as well. And so sometimes we, again, like I was saying, we do things and we, on the surface level, we might think that, okay, this is good for me because it feels good and it tastes good, and it looks good, however, with further, objective, with a further objective viewpoint, with a wider, broader scope, or sometimes a more zoomed in scope, depending on where our arrogancy and where our pride and lack of humility may drive us. We might be looking at things from too large of a viewpoint, or we might be just zoomed in too much on just what we want and just feeling good, and just, tasting good foods, and which, there's nothing wrong with tasting good foods. There's nothing wrong with feeling good, but everything must be, regulated with balance. So we oftentimes, there's a clear distinction, that we're to make, in reference to, making clear decisions, on what's supposed to be you know, what Yah intended for us versus, our own, arrogancy of what we want, because this is my life, so I need to be able to live my life how I want to live my life, and nobody can't tell me nothing because this is my life. That type of arrogancy can oftentimes lead us into a bunch of trouble and bad decisions.
Welcome, Brother Mayuba. Peace.
Thank you for welcoming me to the space. Peace, everybody in Anu. With duality, I wanted to speak about the relation of looking at ourselves as dormant ancestors, because we always take the time to look towards our own ancestry, our ancestors, and the reverence that we have for our past, and the spirits that take care of us. But I feel it very empowering when we take the time to recognize within our lives that we are dormant ancestors, that anyone who hasn't transitioned yet, their physical body, we're dormant ancestors. And there's a big power, and it's a beautiful power. There's a very big power there in looking at our reality in that sense, because for our ancestors, even if we're 95 years old, 98 years old, we're all children in the eyes of our ancestors. And as we get older and we acquire more wisdom, and we keep learning and we keep sharing, there comes a point where recognizing ourselves and other individuals around us as dormant ancestors and looking towards the effects, the impacts that we can have, and not only putting a lot of the power of change and within our ancestors, but recognizing that in each other. So with the duality of, especially I'm at my grandmother's house and taking the time to look at her, and as she gets older, she's my ancestor, and however, as she continues to get older and she's physically debilitated, and will eventually going into that childlike state, I become in a sense a caregiver for my grandmother. So as much as she's my ancestor, I become as well as her ancestor in that phase. So that way of looking at life in the duality has always been interesting for me.
Thank you for the share. I was definitely going to ask you to define what you mean by dormant ancestor, but I think you did elaborate a bit further. So thank you for that perspective. It kind of, in a way, touched on something that Chief opened up with, which is, the body being, active and alive, but also rotting or a corpse, right? Like that idea. I think that was Chief who spoke on that early on. Um, Yeah, so give thanks for all of the shares and builds. There is some activity in the chat, so I want to on YouTube. So Jeremiah Mind a while ago he said a lot of wisdom comes from knowing what you don't know. Right. That is right. The more you seek wisdom, the more you realize, like, I know nothing. He says knowledge tends to unlock greater mysteries and secrets. Intelligence is not about what you know, but being increasingly aware of what you don't know. Absolutely. Peace off the Gertrude. Peace, Ricochet. Chief says Abaras Kush was walking into a metal folding, some metal folding chairs while he was talking. And Jeremiah Mind also says the masculine and feminine is forever present. Yeah, so another example of duality. Sharing and receiving sacred knowledge is tantric in nature. To teach is to learn, and to learn is to teach. There is a beautiful ebb and flow. Yep. So thank you for those examples. Um,
It's cold-blooded, Chief. I like to walk around while I talk. I get my mind running when I'm walking. You know what I mean? So.
But you blamed it on the environment. He said, "Pardon, that's somebody else." It was him.
I was sitting down this time.
I'm just saying, it's a very distinct sound. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know the sound of metal chairs being knocked over. You know what I'm saying? Certain sounds you can't. It's like when you take a belt and you put the two ends together and you snap them. That's the sound your parents used to make before you was about to get hit. It's a very distinct sound.
Yes. Yeah, that sound is.
Now, somebody was doing something to a garbage not too far away from me. I'm sitting down, though. Yeah. This time. Normally, I am walking and talking. It's always somebody else's fault.
There you go. There you go.
That's a duality.
I was wise enough to sit down this time so that I didn't walk into a chair, Yeah.
Well, we just happy we can hear you, brother, because usually we can't hear what you say. You got the worst mic in the city. You know what I'm saying?
See, I upgraded, man. It was. See, this time I'm blaming on the technology. It was the mics that I had, the earpieces. I went through like 5
mics that you gave me.
Yeah. Right.
You didn't buy nothing. You threw away your receipts, so they're not your fault. Exactly.
Y'all gave me these mics.
Exactly. So I'm not gonna be wasteful. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna use them. Because they were meant for me. Since I went and got them, right?
Right. But we just glad you upgraded.
Yes, indeed.
All right, give thanks. So, Abaras Kush, when you were speaking on, and I'm going to get back to reading some of the other comments that came through on the chat. But when you were speaking about, that somatic, that desire for the somatic experience, right? We want what tastes good, what feels good. I know you touched on even like drinking and smoking, or, only wanting what feels like something pleasurable. I thought about the idea of seeking purpose, the purpose of pleasure, right? Like, do we really even understand, or do we seek the wisdom, right? The knowledge and wisdom of what that purpose is, and how you balance that. As you were talking about balancing just that same thing, you didn't use the term pleasure, but that's what kind of had come to mind. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So when I look at, the two sides, or the duality of wisdom, we have, as I shared earlier, and as it's all in Chief's podcast on seeking wisdom, you have humility. Well, let me put it over here. You have humility over here on your right, and you have that active force of listening, which is really activated by our doing. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I just started thinking about gestating, like as a woman, what we take into our womb then gestates. And when we are, this connects actually to our builds on Yom Shishi. Sister Akotsi Maria was speaking about, oh, thank you. Yeah, episode 73. So she put the Seeking Wisdom podcast link in the chat. So give thanks for that. Sister Maria was speaking about what happens when a thing is adulterated, I think it was mutation actually. And I shared that, you can get tumors. And so it's like, if that active driving force, if that thing that's propelling you to deliver, right, to bear down, well, to gestate and bear down and deliver a message. We can even take the example of Nathaniel. Take a message, go take this message over here. Go deliver this thing. I even think of Buju's song Driver. It's not a good example, but it came in my head. It's like, take this thing, bring it over there. Don't do this, don't do that. Don't do this, don't do that. But deliver this mess, like deliver this thing. It just jumped in my head, but it still applies. How obedient are you to that? And then what happens when we're not, right? As a woman, we may be taking in the wrong things or taking things in that we do nothing with because we're not listening, because we're given that, I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. Go ahead. Talk. No, I'm good. I hear you. So then you need to be told over and over and over and over again. And that causes an imbalance as well. So I'm going to get into the definition of wisdom, because we didn't even get to that. It's
So, okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna add on. I think it's related to like what Ross was saying and what couple of things that were being said. In terms of like, I even see the ancestral piece. That wisdom is important. The humility aspect is important within wisdom, and the thing is, it goes back to the listening. As a soul power, and being able to listen to the mind body relationship, because a lot of times, like when we're talking about purpose or wisdom, we're seeking it, right? So we're going out, we're looking for it. Where's the wisdom? Where's it at? Where's it at? Come on, tell me something, right? Even if we're looking to speak to an ancestor. But the thing is, if we understand that wisdom is also represented by the earth, our body is the earth. So the first bit of wisdom, the first ecosystem that you have access to listen to is actually your body. So your body becomes your first master teacher. If you learn to sit with it and understand its different expressions and understand how it details things to you and how it will share significant symptoms with you in order for you to understand things, it's actually teaching you. It's actually giving you wisdom, because it's an active entity. It's actually something that's experiencing things, and it may have subtle forms of expression, and those forms of expression are usually what we call feelings. And those feelings we begin to interpret with our cognitive, thoughts, but they're interpreted through our motor systems. They're interpreted through our neurological systems, right? But it's still all an ecosystem for you to practice listening. Before you go out into the woods, before you go to a lecture, before you listen to a podcast, learning how to listen to a feeling that's experienced through your nervous system is important. And it made me think about it, because when you speak about like a teacher, in some systems we call the teacher the guru. And the term guru is tossed around left and right because people make money off of it. But one of the most important things about a guru that validates a guru is that a guru has to come from a lineage. And if that guru has no lineage, then they're not really a guru. But there has to be a standing lineage that they've been pulling from. And in many instances, not all, but many instances, a guru has renounced all of their material possessions in order to achieve what we would call a state of supreme consciousness. So they take vows of renunciation, and they dedicate their lives to learning, in particular, the teachings of their lineage. So for some of us, we can look at a highly regarded practice as that as like learning the teachings of my ancestors, right? Those who've come before me and all those different powerhouses of consciousness that have been able to deposit inside of this stream and teach different things, whether it's culture or metaphysics or martial arts or how to breathe or yoga or politics, whatever, poetry, pedagogy, whatever, right? But the point is, that's your guru. Now, if you look at that and you associate that with your body actually has that potential because of the lineage that it holds, just in the blood form. In the blood form, you're receiving all of this different blood from your maternal side, which gives you an ancestral connection for you to listen to. And that begins your process of understanding wisdom. That's why when you're young or a baby, we say the mother is the first teacher. Your mother is your very first guru, if you will, who's gonna maybe share about something about your rebirth, or who's gonna share an experience that should reflect the deepest human bond that you're going to experience between, the maternal energy and the child energy. And because that relationship is going to really determine a lot of things for your entire life. The relationship that you have with your first guru, your mother, it's going to leave an imprint on your entire existence going forward. No different than how the moon has an impact on the earth to this day, because it's the relationship of mother and child, But again, it's the science of the guru. So if you place that same emphasis, on the body, then you'll understand that if your mind is disturbed in any sort of way or distracted, then you're always going to be looking past the body to get your wisdom first, as opposed to listening to the messages that it's communicating. And one of the reasons it made me kind of think about that is because of the season that we're in. We're in what's considered or what's associated with the Vata. And if anyone's familiar, like with Ayurvedic medicine, you have what we call different doshas. And, we have Vata, we have Kapha, and we have Pitta. And the fall is typically associated with the Vata energy. And your Vata energy has more like, it's more cool. It deals with things that are flowing and things that have a lot of space and room around them. That could even be cold, if you will, but it connects you with your energy of flexibility and creativity and being able to pick up things quickly, but also sometimes the instability of your eating, the instability of your mood, kind of being overwhelmed. And this is just a form of we all have different body constitutions. So in Ayurvedic, these body constitutions are classified. So one of them is Vata, and one of them is Kapha, one of them is Pitta. So they're just compositions, but it's associated with the fall. But the point that I'm saying, or what I'm getting at there, is that the Vata dosha, or the Vata energy, it really deals with the nervous system and how we're feeling, and really linking your nervous system to the mind and linking that to the feeling, to your feelings. And when that's disturbed, when that's messed up, you start to get kind of this attitude where you don't really, you're not able to blend in the positive energy from your heart with the positive energy of your your attitudes to send you forward into any kind of action. So what happens happens is your actions become inconsistent, and you might start to believe through affirmations that thinking positive is feeling positive. But you're feeling positive, it's a flow that goes through your relationship to your body, and it requires you to have a communication with it, like, to really kind of talk to it, to really kind of talk to that feeling. So there's a listening that has to happen. So just as I was listening, like Ross was talking about, like some of the things that we get into, a lot of times when that connection is not there, it translates itself into a disloyalty to the body, and that translates, like when your vata energy is off, you start eating funny, because you're really now violating the sacred temple. You start digging deeper into different addictions that, of course, no one should to dig into addictions. And what will happen is your body will start to show signs of that disharmony. It will get worse and worse because there's a mind gut connection, if you will. So what happens when the mind gut connection is off? Your gut is your feeling. Your gut, you're good. You're God, right? So when the mind is not connected with the God or with the gut, you start to bombard the body with overeating or emotional eating, or just habits that are not healthy in terms of your food with your body. And then obviously those things become apparent because you're now disturbing the parasympathetic nervous system, by way of the vagus nerve. So there's a science to it as well, because your vagus nerve will start transmitting. It releases a neurotransmitter, but it will start releasing the wrong chemicals, all from you not respecting your first guru, your first teacher, which is your body. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Give thanks, Chief. When you were speaking about the connection between like the body being that first teacher, I don't know, it made me think of like that idea of knowledge, wisdom, understanding from a different perspective. If knowledge is the Elohim, right? Or if knowledge is the Elohim and wisdom is the body, or Adam, right? That the clay. Um, then the understanding would be being fruitful, like being able to produce something, or at least understanding that the knowledge comes from the Elohim, right? Like to even understand ourselves, we have to begin to remain connected to that knowledge.
Well, the evidence of fruitfulness is not the evidence of understanding.
Okay.
So what the fruit is the evidence of the quality of the understanding.
Okay.
Anybody your children are your understanding. A lot of people can have children. Rats have children. Cockroaches have children. It's not that amazing. People say, it's a miracle. It ain't really a miracle. It's just biology. You put the sperm in there, you mix it with the egg, a baby comes out. Easy, right? But now what the heck just slid out? What was the quality of what slid out? That's reflective of the knowledge and the wisdom that went into that experience. So the child is going to look at you and say, yeah, you did this. This is what you did.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to reflect that. So whether it's there or not, there's always understanding. It's always understanding. So just to be able to say I understand is no big feat. Just like to say I had a baby is no big feat. What the miracle is the genius of the child, the aura of the child, the vital energy of the child, the connection that the child has to higher and more sublime levels of evolution. That's the positive amazingness of it. And the same goes with your understanding. When your understanding reflects that thrusting energy, reflects that spiritual evolution, and it has that reason to have emphasis on balance, then we could say, oh wow, okay, yeah, you're understanding at a level that creates a mental impression beyond your past trauma and beyond your ego. You know, so that's the significant thing. Oh, lights out, current out.
I should be back. Did it come back?
Yeah, you back, but your current went
out. Current gone. It's back. Okay, it's back. Okay, good. Thank you for that. So it's the quality of the fruit, right? Yeah. Okay. There you have it. Yeah. Man. Okay. That alone took me on a mental journey. Okay. Give thanks. I'll keep going. So I wanted to just get into wisdom a little bit. So the wisdom, by definition, just doing looking at the definition, it could be the quality of having an experience or experiencing knowledge or good judgment, the quality of being wise, right? And what I thought was interesting is that a lot of the regular, I guess I'll say the Western or just the dictionary basic definition speaks about being able to use good judgment or using something as a measuring stick as a means by which to become wise. But what we know or what we've been discussing and what Chief spoke on is that the wisdom truly comes through the humility. And so I kind of thought, well, how do we see this a bit more? And so I started looking at some scriptures, and the one scripture I pulled on is Proverbs 13:10, and it says, "Only by pride cometh contention." Hold on, because I have a bunch of notes mixed in with my scripture here. Okay, so only by pride cometh contention, but with the well advised is wisdom. And when I looked at that scripture, I pulled on the idea of, only by pride cometh contention. So it's like when we're not humble, what is contention, right? So I dug into contention a little bit, and it's like to debate or to quarrel. So it's like you're being offered or knowledge is being introduced to you, right? Knowledge is being introduced into your cipher, but your pride causes you to have internal bickering. First it's internal, because then that's when it's, yeah, I'm listening. But wait, but are you saying? So basically you're saying, like, all of those things would be the contention I perceive. If I'm understanding correctly, that would be the contention that's being discussed in this verse. But the well advised, right, is wisdom. So if it's almost like sitting at the foot of that guru, and whenever I like think on those YouTube videos, or anytime you see like a guru or I don't know, like that holy one is coming to town and you watch something on YouTube or on TV, there's always this idea of sitting at the foot or wanting to offer reverence or getting a word. It's never a debate, right? When there's that respect and when there is that humility, you sit at the foot and you receive whatever is being poured or offered to you. You're not taking it and then saying, so I don't understand. So are you saying this? And you're not taking it to then negate it. And so it's like that would be how I'm perceiving the well advised being wisdom. the only way to be well advised is to not have that contention, to not have that inner quarrel, which then puts you back into a cyclical experience, because then you rejected the answer to your question. You rejected the opportunity to be well advised. So therefore, you're still not knowing. You're still like, you still have no knowledge, much less the application of, or opportunity to apply wisdom. So yeah, so that's one piece. And then another scripture that like jumped out at me is 1 Corinthians 3 and 18.
Can we build on that scripture before you jump forward?
Yes, sure. Good
Okay.
things.
I think one of the important things about that scripture to keep in mind too is that Solomon was talking to his son. So that's where a lot of what you're speaking about begins, when you don't respect who's speaking to you. You don't understand that there is a hierarchy. There are people who are beyond you. There are people who are above you. And I mean, obviously it shouldn't have to be said when it's father to son, but yeah, we live in a place now where that's just, that's common that children will fight with their parent. But if you look at the very first verse in that chapter, Solomon is talking about a wise son. Mm-hmm. It's basically like a wise son listens to his father's instruction, but one who scoffs doesn't listen to rebuke. It's, something to that effect. Mm-hmm. I'm paraphrasing. So he kind of starts it off by saying, anything that I'm saying now going forward, let me establish the basis of the authority before we even go forward. So when he gets to the point about pride, it becomes critical, because the word there that's used for pride, the Hebrew word, it means to boil. It's really, the word was actually insolence. They used pride, which is cool too, because pride deals with self-aggrandizing and just being super egotistical and boasting and all that other stupid stuff that comes with pride. But it's really to boil over or to boil up. So it's almost like you said, when you're talking to someone and they're like, go ahead, because they have something boiling in them already, probably before they even spoke to you. And sometimes through our own pride, we take it personal. We don't realize this person just has an issue, and there's something boiling over inside of them. And because that thing is boiling over, if you have water that's boiling and you're supposed to put something in it that's not supposed to boil, then you can't put anything in it. You gotta wait. Like if you're making tea properly, you don't put herbs into boiling water if you're doing it the right way, unless you just want to burn them up and drink some bitter garbage. But so it's like, I can't even pour into you. I can't even give you anything of value because of the fact that you're boiling over with yourself. So I just thought it was significant that part, like nothing is allowed to sort of get in, if you will, but also the fact that, he's speaking to his son. That's really what he's addressing. Is all the information is for everybody, but that's the context, is like a father speaking to a son, and that should immediately make you shut up. Mm-hmm. When you're speaking to an elder, you're speaking to someone who's beyond you or over you. There is no but I'm saying, no, that doesn't even exist. Just be quiet and just learn and listen and enjoy that experience, so that you can be quick to wisdom instead of quick to temper, or quick to response.
Right, that's the humility. Go ahead, Master Manila.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that too. I mean, the insolence thing threw me off. I just like the word insolent. I don't know. It sounds real super
Victorian. It sounds medieval. Yeah. Victorian. Like, yeah, please. Yeah. Duality and insolence has Marcus Aurelius. I grow tired of insolence.
Comes right before a podcast. reminds me of the phrase coming in hot. Like anything, like something is coming in hot. Or like when I used to work in the kitchen, like one of my first jobs, whenever you heard someone say hot, that means someone is coming through with some food. You got to get out of the way. Like you can't really you don't want to get in the path of the one who's moving with that hot food. You got to get out of the way. If you try to get in the way of that person and try to stop them or anything, you likely to cause someone to get burnt. Someone's going to get burnt, and you just try to stand in front of them or walk across their path. And it brought home the point of what you were saying about someone already having something boiling inside of them. And you have to, I remember one segment you were saying, before someone even comes to you with all the hot energy, you tell them, listen, you might want to calm down or go over there and calm down until you able to talk to me like you got some sense. But just talking to someone who's already hot, already cool, they're not going to receive anything. And you can sort of notice, like, this isn't going to go anywhere. When they start talking, it's like, you almost got to let them talk themselves out. Like, I'll wait until you run out of points to say, and then I'll jump in, But, yeah, even with the verse, the pride causing that contention, or the pride causing someone to, like, miss out on the wisdom they could receive, it's very indicative of the time that we live in, like Chief was speaking to. I've seen plenty of conversations where there almost has to be like a third or fourth party to come in and say, listen, you're trying to act as though this person is opposing you, but they're actually saying the same thing as you. They're just telling you need to calm down. I don't need to calm down. You need to calm down. Why y'all attacking me? Like, it's like, okay, I'm gonna leave y'all alone. Y'all can handle that. And it's like you putting it on me now to calm you down when you brought some funky energy from elsewhere. You don't really want to listen. We're talking about listening, and the boiling thing reminds me of also what you had built on the most recent segment, episode 75, when you're talking about just the ability to sit and listen as opposed to trying to do, I want to do this or I want to do that, in response to the feeling that I have or the signal that my body is giving me. I want to just do. And I can't sit because something inside of me is boiling, or I have this knee-jerk reaction to this feeling, and it drives me to go somewhere else and do something else. So that's what that the concept of boiling, brought to mind.
Give thanks, Master Manalek. Yeah,
it's something. I'm sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
But the thing about it too, with like what Master Menelik was saying with the argument, because this is something that just jumped out at me. Like, one of the things too, for those of us who are like really interested in being wiser and living better, you have to really safeguard your energy and when I say your energy, I'm saying your opportunities to argue. Because generally, typically, arguing is not the thing to do. It gets you nowhere. There was a individual by the name of Bertrand Russell, and he said something that I always like. It repeats in my head. I thought it was such an interesting statement. But he said, a stupid man's report of what a clever man says can never be accurate, because he unconsciously will translate what he hears into something he can understand. You know what I mean? So once you're talking to somebody who's showing like they're belligerent or they're just they're boiling over, their cup is full, there's nothing that can go in there. It only you become the stupid person by trying to pour something into a full glass. So that's just like a little side note PSA. We're at a time where dealing with stubborn people who are judging your good as evil because you're bringing wisdom to them is just a dangerous thing to do. It's better just to shut up and walk along your way and let them boil over, boil out, dissolve, whatever it is. But we're not in the age of trying to convince anymore.
Yeah, give thanks. Kind of reminds me of the adage, well, the piece about casting pearls onto swine. It's like, especially considering this dispensation that we're in, so many are seeking for something. And so if they're seeking you out, in pursuit of something, you would think that there would be, some humility and openness, since you're coming, right? You're coming to receive. So give thanks. And thank you for the additional perspective as well on the Proverbs 13:10. Yeah, I did read the opening, and I'm always like, I don't want to share the whole thing. And that actually kind of happened with the next reference, which is from the Apocrypha, Wisdom. One is Wisdom 1, and it's 1 through 4. So it's Wisdom chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. And it says, "Love righteousness, ye that be judges of the earth." Just hold on to that piece. Ye that be judges of the earth. Think of the Lord with a good heart. And in simplicity of heart, seek him, for he will be found. For he will be found of them that tempt him not, and sheweth himself unto such as do not distrust him. For forward thought, or I'll give the other word for that, is froward, but there's another word as well for froward thought, separates from God. It's crooked, right? So crooked thought separates from God, and his power when it is tried. Reproveth the unwise, for into a malicious soul wisdom shall not enter, nor dwell in the body that is subject unto sin. So it's like, for it, that last verse is really, well, the last two verses were the ones that I wanted to really build on, right? So it's that crooked thought that separates us from the Most High and his power. So it's like when we have those, well, I could so based on what you said, I can do it like this. I can go around the corner. I don't have to come at it directly. I don't really have to follow the instructions that you were given. Or it even connected with something Chief said at the end of that podcast regarding wisdom being that woman, and the idea that, many men may have a woman that perceives herself as his wisdom, but she's disobedient. So in fact, she's not receiving instruction. She's actually, in that crooked thought, in that froward way of thinking, which is like, all right, well, I heard what you said, but I'm going to do this. And in so doing, you create opportunities for sin, for disobedience. You're not able to have wisdom enter into you. You're not able to even move based on the active instruction that are being given, because again, your thoughts almost create like some sort of a frequency that disallows, authentic knowledge to enter in. And that was something that I got from the Apocrypha. The piece about ye that be judges of the earth, think of the Lord. I love that because it's acknowledging right in the beginning of the Book of Wisdom that that this ain't for everybody, right? Love righteousness, ye that be judges of the earth. Who are the judges of the earth? That's what you have to know because everything else that follows is addressing that body, those beings who are charged to be judges. Um, and it's like, if you don't seek that out, then the rest may not even make sense to you. Think of the Elohim with a good heart and in simplicity of the heart, seek him. So it's like, when we think of, well, what's my purpose? Well, it's like, well, I know I want to do this, but it has to be like this. I have to be able to make this amount of money and do it in this environment. And I'm only going to want to do it this, and this way. There's no simplicity in that. So it's probably likely that that's not your purpose. Or if it is, all that extra sauce that you put on top of it is going to deter you from even walking on purpose, because the first simple step may be go to school, and you're 30 something, 40 something, and you don't want to go to school. So if you put that off for a cool 5 years, but you're still over here seeking purpose and taking courses and participating in, you know, all of these explorations, maybe even readings and things, but you never took that first step, which was given to you, all you're doing is like creating these cycles of wasted time. Um, and so you just don't get there. We just don't get there. So yeah, so I hold space if anybody wants to build on that. Yeah.
On the purpose piece, I think there's a criticalness to there because, like you said, like sometimes people they hype up the purpose and then they put all these distractions in their path. But the idea of a purpose is not as static as people think it is because, like even just in etymology, purpose and the word propose, well, actually, purpose comes from propose. So they're one and the same, and the the meaning is just to intend something. So if I'm saying I'm going to go live on purpose, I'm saying that I'm going to go live this proposal, but the proposal can be rejected, or you may not be ready for that particular pro. You might get sent back. You might get sent back for a betrothal period. Like, all right, we'll take it. We'll do a conditional acceptance of your proposal because these are the things that you have to get in order. So sometimes there's a building up of a purpose, or the purpose changes because you're not ready for that particular purpose. And it's all a proposal. And it's a proposal that you can even put out to the universe to see if there's a place for it, is a place for that intention on the planet. And it may be something that's proposed to you. And it's proposed to you, and you can choose to do it or not to do it. But the purpose is always based on the proposed intention. And that requires that you do a self-assessment to see if I can even meet this proposal. No different than like a unilateral marriage proposal. Someone puts out there, hey, if anybody's able to get here by 3 p.m., I'll marry them. That's a purpose, but it's unilateral, obviously, because there hasn't been a bilateral sort of promise for payment or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's important to keep in mind that your purpose is a unilateral proposal. It's the same way, like, hey, this is sitting here, and if you could do it in this thing, boop, boop, it's there. But that means that there's probably multiple proposals that you could take a look at. You can look at different paths and different options, and maybe I do this, maybe I do that, maybe that. There's many different proposals, and you can try them on for fit to see if this intention will fit me, or if I already have a heart's intention towards this direction outside of what I've been told. Well, my people always told me I was good at this or that. but what's your proposal? I think that's so important, because I know for me, doing a lot of business on the continent, whether I've been in East Africa or West Africa, I've always had that same experience. And matter of fact, the South too. Whenever I sit, whether it's in the chief's house or with the elders, there's always a discussion of proposal. And you have to say that. You say that when you sit down. And it could be something as simple as I don't know, it could be the simplest thing. Maybe there's a child that you want to take on a trip or something. It might not even be something huge, you know what I'm saying? And you have to sit down and explain your purpose and your mission. They call it the mission and the proposal. And they may even already know what it is, but you have to say it again officially in front of everybody. And then you'll discuss it and things like that. So it's almost like a negotiating sort of thing. And your purpose can be that as well when you're tuned in. So that's all.
Yeah, give thanks for that, Chief. I never heard of a unilateral marriage proposal before. And the more you speak, and I say, this sounds like it can be in the newspaper. It sounds like the song Pina Colada. If you like this stuff, just show up. We can go on a walk.
I mean, think about it. That's what we pretty much learned in all the fairy tales. You know what I'm saying? Whoever can come kiss the princess, wake her up, gets to marry her. Or, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever. I don't know. I'm sure there's more than one kiss the princess, wake her up. But that's a unilateral proposal. So many people can answer to that purpose. That's what sometimes you be having an idea to do something, and you drag your feet, and then somebody else does it. And you're like, man, was that just floating around in the air? Yeah, it was a proposal that was put out by the universe. It was unilateral. It's like putting up a sign for a lost dog. Whoever comes and brings Scruffy back home, I'll give you $500. But you don't have a contract. It's just something, because you haven't provided the service as of yet. So you're not entitled to that thing until you act upon it. You ain't entitled to a purpose until you act upon that purpose.
It's like being a bounty hunter.
Right. That's a great example. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. I lost my thought. You were judges of the earth. I connected that to what was stated before about the body being the earth. And how you're speaking, Chief, about that lineage that's there already in the body. But again, just the idea of being a judge, or being someone who's I was thinking about the root of just or justify, to make something right. And a judge being someone who administers that law, so even administering the law to your body, your body may be craving something that's not necessarily in alignment with it. Maybe it was poison previously and it's craving that poison now. And you have to be the one who's the judge to say, or to declare, nah, that's not right. You don't need no Twinkies right now. You good. But it's just like a simple example. But yeah, that's what that verse brought to mind. Not just judging the external, but also declaring what's right constantly to what's going on internally.
Right. Yeah. Give thanks for that. And with being that being able to administer the law, it means first you have to know or be that law, right? So it's like in the Anu way, it speaks about us being able and being charged with judging one another, and ourselves. And so how can we do that? We can do that because we're saying we're standing on the same foundation. So if I'm reading this daily, if I'm studying, if I'm discussing and exploring, if I'm doing these things, then I know it, like it's in me. So if it's in me, then I should see that in you. Like we should be reflecting one another. Our lifestyle should reflect in some respect a similarity, because we're standing on the same knowledge, and applying and moving and listening to, or humbling ourselves to the same wisdom. So even something as simple as for the women, our heads being covered in our attire. If we're in the same community and I see you and you're out at the Whole Foods, but your head is not covered and you don't have on proper attire, I then have to make a judgment about what it is you're standing on, and how you're moving. So when I look at that, love righteousness, it's like we know righteousness is knowing and doing what is right in a given moment. So it's like love that opportunity to move with the right thing in a given moment. Those that have a law that they know and stand on, right? Yeah, there is just so much as I look at just this piece. This is the piece of wisdom that I got stuck in way before I even got into the rest of wisdom. Yeah, I really like this book of wisdom. I'll just say that for those who maybe haven't dug into it yet, it's pretty deep, and wisdom is extremely charged. Wisdom, the idea of wisdom in this particular book is charged with like a ferociousness that I don't think and maybe it's in the Bible, but I haven't like gotten that from the biblical description of wisdom. But in here, it's almost like you are not to, pretty much like what Chief said, we're not in a time where you're going to entertain argument. We're not in a time, actually, we're going to use this sword, and we're cutting ourselves away from that, or we're cutting you away from us. Because if I am wise and I'm moving in the humility and obedience of wisdom, then I actually don't even have time to deliberate and go back and forth to try to convince you of who and what you are. There's like a decisiveness that the wise or the judges are being instructed to move with. So yeah, I don't know, I get super, I don't want to always say geeky, but I just so enjoy studying and knowing that I'm actually never really getting it, but I'm just, it's just more breadcrumbs. I'm going to go and read through the chat because I said I wouldn't get backed up, but we kind of did. So Imanaya some time ago said, I'm reminded of the balance represented in the yin and yang, which Chief Yuya explained. Yeah, there is a white dot in the black side and a black dot in the white side. Yep, they have an interdependency on one another and need each other to exist. Anger can be transformed into healing, and healing can transform to healing. Okay, I don't know if that's what. Yeah, good. Thanks for that. She put some lyrics in the chat. I mean, yeah, okay, that was the song I was referencing. It just jumped in my mind. Just about the idea of someone being given instructions. That's all. And told if you do this, it should work out. If you do that, it might not.
Yeah, part of your criminal history.
No, me. No.
You see what I'm talking like an old girl. Nah.
Oh yeah. Okay. And Jeremiah Mind says, let me highlight this. Reminds me of your lecture about loving yourself. Yep. When you sit with your emotions, begin to unlock and perceive a lot of the things mentioned. Yeah. Yeah, when we take that time to sit. And then thank you for putting the scripture in the chat. And then Jeremiah Mind says, you begin to unlock and perceive a lot of the things mentioned. Okay. And then Alexandra Gray says she does look up to us all and the builds. Yeah, no, give thanks. You're welcome. It is our pleasure to build. It really is a pleasure to do this, to be able to share, right? Because within Anu, I think that each of us, like we study and build and explore, and choose to humble ourselves, and stoop, right, in order to say, yeah, I don't know, I don't know nothing, and what I do know is I was that person saying I want to get it, or I was the one who was eating the wrong things or doing the wrong things, consistently, like a couple of strongs ago, right? And being offering humility and kindness and love to ourselves to say, I'm not there. Like, yeah, we're here, and the aesthetic may be right, but we're still striving. We're still climbing, as Abaras Kush touched on earlier. We're still climbing, actively doing something. We're still seeking food. Chief Yuya puts out a podcast, and it's almost like everybody swarms it. And listens and re-listens, as Akoti Maria spoke on Yom Shishi. You've got to continually take it in and say, okay, all right, I'm listening just to connect to the words. Then it's like I'm listening to take notes. Then I'm listening to take notes on the references that are being given, and let me go look into those references now, because it's there's levels to this. They're layers. I'll leave it there. Sorry. I always have songs in my head. They're layers. And as we build, you can look at it as steps. But if it's layers and you're peeling things back, you're just peeling more of yourself back and down in order to get to the core, to the essence, which is, I would say, how you get closer to purpose. It's like we've got so many things that we're entrapped in, and so many things that we put on ourselves, so many habits that we choose to put on. Where I am now in the Southeast, it's like it's mid-October. It's really not that cold, but it gets super chilly. Like in the dawning, it could be about 40 degrees, but then by the time it's 1, 2 o'clock, it's about 60, 70. So what do? I wear layers. But it's like, in so doing, as I get closer to that warm temperature, as I get closer to the core, it's like I've got to take some of these layers off because they actually don't serve me anymore. So that humility is really a saying, this ain't it. This, this ain't it. It's something deeper. Let's get down to that little celestial ember. What is that? Who is that? Is it in me? And if so, how do I keep it? Like, what does it require in order to keep burning? Because that's the fire that's the heat, right? That's that coming in hot that we want. Yeah. I've been chatting for a while, so I don't know. And Safta Hava, I do see you here. I don't know if you wanted to jump in at all. The same for Akotia. If not, I just keep jibber jabbering. Okay, I'll keep going. All right, so I did look at the time. I have so many notes. It's like we can go all day. So I wanted to dig a little into the idea of, more into the Deuteronomy 8:2, which is a reference on humility. And it says, and thou shalt remember all the ways which the Yahuwah Elohim led thee So we'll get to led. Led thee these 40 years in the wilderness to humble thee and to prove thee, to know that what was in thine heart, whether thou wouldst keep his commands or not. So, and that's Deuteronomy 8:2. So it's like you have to remember all the things, all the opportunities where your creator led you. And when you look at led, it's yalak, and I may be saying that wrong. It's yalak in Hebrew, which is to walk with. And it's yod lamed chaf, right? And that kaf is like really, really interesting. I like dug a lot into it and its connection to wisdom. But here it's saying, like, remember all the ways that the Elohim walked with you. But here it says led you. So when I first read it, before I delved into what led meant, I immediately thought of like being yoked. And so the yod is there, but the yod is the hands, right? But it's like, think of all the ways that the creator walked with you. So it's I don't know. I had a father who would say when we were in trouble, like, let's take a walk. And he knew, oh man, what I do? We gotta go for a walk. And in those walks, it would be a recounting of, okay, so what happened? All right, so you did what? Okay. So it's like in those moments, you have to recount. And then it's like, well, what's the purpose of the walk? The purpose of
it didn't lead to a beating?
he wasn't a no.
Oh, you acted like it was some big, oh, we gotta go for a walk. I thought you walking around the corner where the neighbors can't hear you getting whooped.
No.
That's nothing. This is a talk. That's like a timeout in the corner. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, it's white parenting.
Oh, it would explain a lot of things. Okay, perhaps. But it man, no spankings. But that walking, it's like, it's that time to recount. So it's like, we're being charged here to remember all the ways which the Elohim walked with you in order to, and remember, this is during the 40 years in the wilderness. So it's like, yeah, I am creating an opportunity for you to get humble. So I walked with you in the wilderness, right? I led you to the wilderness, but led is deceiving because you can lead me somewhere and then be like, all right, that's it. But this is not just lead you somewhere and leave you, although that's how it might have been perceived when you were in the wilderness. But really, it was to humble you. And that humbling is Anna, Ayin Noon Hey. And it's like to bow down or to become low. And it's like through that wilderness walk, it was to prove you. And so when I thought of proving something, it's almost like that testing, right? Or that's like, I don't know why, but it made me think of like how alcohol has a proof, right? And it's kind of like, we know that this has this amount of alcohol content. So whether you're desiring to be, have a glass of wine and all right, there's this much alcohol, or 151 and there's this much alcohol. Once a thing is proven, this is what it is. So I walked you somewhere. I placed you in the wilderness in order to humble you, to kind of sift through, to see who was what. And this is all being done so that we can get into the heart of things. We can get into the root of who's actually keeping these commandments, who's actually doing what they're supposed to do, who's listening, right? Who's actually getting the thing done. And so, yeah, it just, I just found it like interesting how three little words, wisdom, humility, and listening, are, we can kind of find it woven, interwoven throughout scripture and other historical biblical texts in general or specifically. So yeah. And give thanks, top tier speaker. Oh, go ahead, Okotiafe.
Oh, okay. I was having difficulty. Peace, everyone. I had a lot that I wanted to say, but I'm going to build on what you just shared in Deuteronomy. As you were speaking, I was like, yeah, there's a duality there as well, because while they were being punished, right, for doing what they did, I think while Moses was getting the law and the commandments, they were, having a big old bacchanal at the foot of the mountain. It's like, all right, now you're going to walk for 40 years. You're going to be in the wilderness. But at the same time, they were being protected, So, like, for instance, like, I think, like, the last part of the journey was Moab. And, like, this is right before they hit, like, the river Jordan to, like, cross over into Jericho. And the Moabite king was trying to curse them. Like, he tried his absolute best to curse them. And he hired this soothsayer or whatever, Balak, or Balaam, and no matter what he did, he was unable to perform those curses and had to, only thing that would come out were blessings. So as you were speaking, I was like, that's an example of that duality. Like, while you're on punishment, I'm going to still keep you safe. So I just wanted to share that.
Right. And even in that punishment, I'm still walking with you. So again, it goes to, are we able to pan out and see the value of the lesson, or even see the grace that we're given, even when being corrected? Yes, I had to take the walks. No, I didn't get the whooping that I probably deserved in most instances. But there were lessons, and just knowing that I had to take those walks. I'm laughing because I didn't always get the lesson, but I knew what it meant anyway. So give thanks for that. I'm looking at wisdom, and I'm actually looking at chapter 2. And in chapter 2, it actually cautions wisdom against a particular type of voice. And it says, for those that may say something like, and it's in the first verse, it says, our life is short and sorrowful. There is no healing when a man comes to his end, and no one was ever known who was released from Hades. Because we were born by mere chance. Born by mere chance. How many of us think that we were like born by chance? Like, oh, you weren't playing, and this is just all happenstance. So this is the narrative of that sort of person, right? Who believes that because we were born by mere chance, and hereafter we will be as though we had never been. Because the breath in our nostrils is smoke, and the reason is a spark kindling by the beating of our hearts. So it's almost like we're just here. We got no real purpose. I wasn't created with any sort of wisdom, so I don't need to humble myself to anything. I'm just here to live my life, and I'm just going to live this one life because ain't nothing after this. We haven't seen anybody come back from the depths of hell. Like, that's what they're talking about here. So I'm just going to do me. Chapter 2 is warning the judges of that narrative. And it's all in quotes. So this is something that someone is saying. I I wanted to, and I'm going to say close, but we can continue. But that was one of the last things that I wanted to speak on as a word of caution, whether that's a narrative that you have, why do I have to do all of this anyway? We're just going to die. Like the world, we're in a recession. Everything is going to wherever you think it's going anyway. So why be righteous? Why seek wisdom? I don't have an answer for you. You have to have your own answer. And I will that our build and exploration of humility, listening, and wisdom sparks a desire to seek out the understand or knowledge, seek out knowledge so that you can actively move with obedience and listening so that you know what the reason is, because for each of us it's a unique and different reason, right? It's connected to purpose. So but if we want to be cloaked in the why bother, as I think it was Abba Ross Kush said earlier, it's like I can't tell you why sugar is bad. As someone who still likes cupcakes, it's like I know I can't have it because I know what it does, and what it does to me, for me, is not going to help me climb that chain. It's not going to keep me light. Um, so yeah, you have to use knowledge and wisdom in order to get a sense of what that narrative is in you, and govern yourselves accordingly, because our journey is our own, right? Whether you want to be in those cycles or that spiral, it's up to you. Did anyone else want to add anything? Oh, and I was saying, give thanks to Top Tier Speaker for sharing the scripture for Deuteronomy. And she also says here, that testing reminds me of the importance of rites of passage experience that we all must go through to be qualified as adults, that strengthening of character. Yeah, we go through many rites of passage throughout our life journey. Um, yeah, we go through so many, and I would say that testing or that proving is just that. It's like, did I make it? Am I doing it? And oftentimes we don't know when we have that opportunity to kind of be tested. Oftentimes we don't have the perspective to say, oh, this is a test, and I shall pass it. It feels good when you can see that coming. And there are times when I'm like, I see what this is. This is an opportunity for me to pull from something that I said I got, or I just naturally pull from it. And then all right, we made it another rung, and then there will be more lessons and more tests. So give thanks. If there is nothing else,
I wanted to add something about the whole a person saying like, "What's the point in me doing this or doing that?" Because I'm gonna just transition in this way. Or for some, it's their beginnings. They may say, "I started out wrong. I had really lousy parents, or this or that." But when you said the word "born," it kind of triggered something, because in me at least, in the Hebrew, the word "born" is yalid. And if you look at that word, it's comprised of three letters, which is Yod, Lamed, and Daled. And as soon as you see the first letter is Yod. So when you see Yod, you're dealing with the hand of the Elohim, or it's not touching the earth. Yod, that particular symbol, it doesn't come all the way down to your script line. When you're writing and you have lines on the page, it doesn't touch the earth, if you will. So it represents divinity. So just starting off in the beginning, the word starts with the hand of the Elohim, the hand of the celestial divine ones. That's being born or being begot. So it's not, even though I spoke about it being an act of biology, which it is, but you're not a biological mishap. There's an intelligent design behind every single birth, because the hand of the Creator, or the hand of the Most High, is already present just in the concept of birth. And then you have Lamed, of course, which is the ruler, really, of all other letter forms, because it's so tall. You know, it's that King of Kings. So it's a concept there of being born into the right space, if you will, or the most prominent. Every new birth that comes forward in the family is the most important birth. You know, every new one is the most important, and then Dalet being that door. But um, just the significance of Yaled itself as the birth, I wanted to add also is that your birthing and your being begot, as you might read a lot of times, it doesn't always have much to do with parentage, believe it or not. Because sometimes we'll say, well, my parents were like this is what I came from, so I know I wasn't really destined to do or to be anything. But to be born or to be begotten is not a reference to your parents. So, for instance, if I take an understudy, if I take an apprentice under my wing, and I develop and implant a totally different new character and mindset inside of that person, if you were reading the scroll of my lineage, it would say, and Yuya begot this person. Now, me and this person may have no sort of blood relation whatsoever, but also when you're dealing with the idea of being born or begat from someone, it also extends to grandchildren. So you have that also not only in your Hebraic scriptures, but also in your Akkadian, in your Sumerian texts, where we talk about certain people who were begotten of certain people, but they were actually grandparents. So you might be looking at like, oh, my parents are garbage. You know, they weren't really good parents, but your coming forth may have been a significant extension in your lineage and your legacy that was started by a great grandparent or a great great grandparent. You know, and you're the extension and the most important birth of that understanding that's going forth. So it's just for anyone who might feel like, you know, well, I didn't start out right, but you may not understand the ultimate goal just based on the concept of what being begotten or being born actually is.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's interesting. I didn't get into it, but we touched on it a little bit, but that Yod Lamed, I know you said Yod Lamed Dalet, is Yalad, and that's connected to born. And Yalak is the word for, or to walk with, or to lead, which is Yod Lamed Kaf. And so you still have that hand of the Elohim and the Lamed being the ruler of all. And then the shift would be the Kaf being like bending something into shape, or being that palm that's almost kind of propelling a thing forward. Um, it's like even how it connects to walking with it makes me think of that hand on the back. Sometimes you're being walked somewhere. It used to happen in school sometimes, right? It's like you're being walked to your class, and it's like this firm hand on the back that moves you forward. And in so doing, like, it's guiding you to a particular place. And I just thought it was interesting.
But what's significant too about that is that Yalak, I'm not sure, I think you read it from a scripture, right? And you said the original word was Yalak.
Yes, it was. Yes, that was Deuteronomy 8:2, where it speaks to being led, where Elohim led you the 40 days in the wilderness. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because Yalak actually means to carry. It doesn't necessarily mean like to lead or to accompany or anything like that. It literally means that you're bearing the load of something. So that may change the message in a way. halak. And halak is it's pretty much the same thing. It's just said differently. Halak, but it means that I brought you. I literally am the one who brought you here.
Okay. So, all right. So it would connect more with to carry than to walk with or lead. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Did anyone have anything else that they wanted to build on or share about wisdom, humility? I want to say, well, I guess it was quiet for some, but some actually shared that don't usually. So I'll just say thank you. Just a few reminders, updates. Uh, of course, every single strong, usually on Tuesday, we have a new episode for the Chief Yuya podcast. So look out for that. Um, of course, in the Anu space, just a reminder for those that are Anu, please, if you have not done so already, I know Koti Yafe put out the word for registering for our winter retreat. It's going to be in Florida, y'all. So it'll be winter, but we'll be warm camping. So please make sure you complete the registration for, to confirm.
Could be a flood, though.
Could be a flood.
You never know.
You never know. Could be a flood. We'll be warm. We'll be warm. That's all I'm worried about. But please do that. For those who are listening and pondering and, considering joining Anu, feel free to apply and know that applying really is your opportunity for courtship, right? It's an opportunity to be sponsored by a fellow Anu man or woman, and to spend 9 strongs digging in and more intentionally and intensively into what it would look like to be Anu. So, I think we talk a lot about the application process, and, we may say apply and you'll be sponsored, or apply to be sponsored. But you may not know what that means. And so sponsorship doesn't mean you just automatically become Anu and you have to abide in, every standard of the or stanza of the Anu way. But really it's a courting time. And I would say even go back and take a look at, as you download and access the Anu Way, which is free. What's he talking about? Reconsider my I don't swim position. I don't know. Master Manic sounds like he's giving me a charge to do something. I don't know. But as it pertains to oh, if it's a flood? Okay.
I knew what you was talking about.
I didn't know.
Yeah, she didn't appreciate my insolence. Right.
I will not suffer your insolence. Quiet. Okay. I'll wear a life jacket, a buoy. I'll wait for a boat.
No, they were reserved for the children.
No, the babies. My baby swims, so.
Yeah, sweet babies.
My sweet babies swim. They gonna share with mama. Okay, I was speaking about something. Okay, much more important than me swimming. So for those
talking about how when they want to apply for, I knew that they have to make sure they're serious because it's not a game and they should be coming with a giving heart.
Yes.
As opposed to just coming in and thinking about all the different things that the community is going to serve to them. I think that you were saying that the first thing on their mind should be how will they come in and help this space? And that begins with humility and commitment and investment and consciousness and focus on actually being present. I think you were saying something like that because, like you were saying, we are all aware that we're in very desperate times right now. And the power of having a conscious community is like platinum. and we are aware of our value as Anu. So as a result, you just can't come in here all raggedy and half-assed and expect to pass in because you say you need it. Because we have children here that we have to safeguard. So I think you were saying something to that degree.
That sounds exactly like what I was saying. Took the words right out of my mouth. Yes, thank you. So that said, if you want to heed to that charge, please feel free to apply for sponsorship at onewlifeglobal.org. Also, we have internally, we have our study sessions this Wednesday. And Anu, please, please, please be sure to look up your let me give some context. So we've been studying quite a bit, and we've delved into the 12 tribes, and so we're looking at the 12 tribes and the jewels in the breastplate, and exploring lots and lots of information connected to those 12 tribes. So please come prepared to build and discuss. We also have our show Improve on Thursday, and then we'll be back to Yom Shishi Builds with Master Menelek. So with that, I want to just say...
What show Improve, though? Because we didn't hear that before. What is that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We get in a circle, we freestyle rap.
We showing and we're proving. No. No.
You just disqualified. Showing and improving. And that's how we're doing.
Showing and improving, and that's what we're doing. Yes, that's... I'm out.
You gotta bring sideline to the
right, yeah, bring the push broom. Let's bring the push broom. I prefer to be in the back doing something behind the curtain anyway, so I'm cool.
Be a dancer.
Nah, I'm cool. I'm cool. So let's talk about... What is it? So show Improve. So you'll notice that our brother El Karar, who was actually doing a phenomenal job with the movie breakdowns, over the past, I would say 4 or 5 strongs, he shifted to the Anu Show Improve. And so what he does is pull from Anu references, scriptural references, and link it to messages and lessons in history. And so I can't touch on, and if someone recalls what theme he'll be, I think he's going to Coda Hammurabi actually this strong, which I'm so excited about. So he just digs into different historical facts and shows the challenge and whether they adhere to biblical standards and statutes or not, and shows what happens and why. And so we build and we learn. That is actually a phenomenal opportunity for the youth to listen in. I know my youth listen, especially my son. He tends to really enjoy the dips into history, and it's extremely interactive. He comes with prolific PowerPoint slides. I won't say why. He tends to point the finger at me. But really, really interactive PowerPoint slides, and sometimes some videos, as well as his build and his lesson. So we're showing, improving what our new looks like outside of the Anu Way foundations and what we do day to day, how it's reflected in the past. So if there is nothing else, I'm going to thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you all really, really soon. Of course, as Akoti Maria reminds us, please comment even after the chat, like come back and put comments under these messages. It really helps with engagement. And of course, like, share. And if for some reason you're not a subscriber, do that as well. So peace to all in Clubhouse. Thank you, Chief Yuya, Master Menelek, and everyone else. Abba Ras Kush, Mayuba, Kotiyafe, for contributing. It really, really does help a lot when we're building together. And I will you all a really powerful, strong. All right.
Give thanks for the awesome bill. Give thanks, everyone.
Peace, peace. Give thanks. Uh-oh. How do the end button moved? It's down here. Peace, YouTube and YouTube land. Give thanks to everyone.